That's absolute theft.
That's
okay. Hang on.
That's absolute theft.
Let me answer that question. Let me answer that question, Steve. Let me
Sue
answer
me.
that question. Kyle, if okay, Kyle, I'm going to ask you a point blank question. Was that the original agreement? Yes or no?
What, 50%?
Was
50%?
Yes, we've got it in writing.
Thing. What was?
Yeah.
That was the actual agreement. Now, when that changed, did Steve sign off on it anywhere?
He never told me those changes. Just right now, I heard the first time I heard anything about it.
Here's the thing though. Steve, can you do the music?
All right, I have to weigh in. I've watched the non-sec. I've told my subscribers to subscribe to the non-sec, and I can't believe what's going on, because finally Steve was forced to try and show the community what Kyle was doing to him, which we all could see happening in the background this whole time. Basically, they admit that they have a 50-50 agreement for the entire channel. Now, Kyle steps up and starts doing more work. They build the channel 50-50 throughout all of it. Kyle steps up and starts doing music, and I don't know how he's using that argument. He ran a GoFundMe campaign through their community they built together to get the musical equipment to make the music. But because he says that he's done the music and he wants to change the channel, that Steve is screwed and Steve's going to get pushed out. It's all recorded. You have to go to Steve Mcrae's channel to watch it. The Non-Sequitur show is having a hostile takeover, and it's been recorded on video. Red's Rhetoric and Steve, now this is a pre-show. This wasn't live. They record their pre-shows. Kyle knows that. And they sat down and said, we've been trying to talk to you for 3 months because Steve has been wanting his money. Kyle took control of the Patreon. He kicked Steve off of the Patreon, off of the Twitter. He kicked Steve off of the... You can watch this yourself. It's on Steve Mcrae's channel. I'm going to sum it up for you because some people don't know what's going on. You need to unsubscribe from non-sec right now. Why? Because when you start a channel that's 50-50, it's almost impossible to build the channel. There are people that have been building channels for 5 years on YouTube and never making it. But these guys... Even Steve and Kyle both admit that Steve created the channel in the Patreon. He signed it over to Kyle because Kyle talked him into it. Kyle knew that he had control of it, so he kicked Steve out. He chose to do more work for a few months. He chose not to schedule Steve as much. He wasn't talking to Steve, and then he does a hostile takeover. Now, there's another part to this. Godless Engineer is on Twitter acting like a complete idiot about all this. He's blindly defending Kyle. And he's been doing it, and then all of a sudden, bam, a recorded video comes out where Kyle admits to it. So I was going to show all of this, but I want to get the initial response out. I'll do a full video showing Godless Engineer's Twitter reaction. I'm not putting down Godless Engineer. I just don't understand what he's doing. He's on Twitter saying that there was never a 50-50 agreement and blah, blah, blah. He might be confused by Kyle, but if that's true, he needs to stand up against Kyle right now. Steve does not deserve this. It's been 50-50 the whole time, and without Steve, they wouldn't have had a big following. You know, people like both of them, and when it's 50-50 and you build a channel, it is both of you bringing that audience together. And now that it's got 30,000 subscribers and actually brings in a good amount of money, if Kyle wants to kick Steve out, he can't because Steve has 50 stake in it. So Kyle, though, because he's gotten Steve to, let him have control of the password of the account, he removed them off the account and acts like Steve doesn't have a way in. Everybody on the internet that saw this clip agrees that Kyle is doing a hostile takeover of the non-sex show. And I want to initially respond now and go into an in-depth response to show how everyone's reacting and show what's really going on. But the biggest thing that I can show you is that Steve says, sue me. He says, yeah, he admits, and I played the clip. It was 50-50. It was 50-50 the whole time building the whole channel. In the last 3 months, he has tried to take over the channel, do more work, not schedule Steve as much, and then uses that as an excuse to say, well, too bad, I'm changing it. He says it's not going to be 50-50. It's only going to be 50-50 when you're on the channel, Steve. But that's not how it works. Because if Kyle would have built this channel the whole time and Steve wouldn't have been there through the whole time building it, it doesn't matter what Steve does. Steve could be on the channel 0. And because of their initial agreement, because Kyle admits they have it in writing that it's 50-50, and while they build the channel forever, these two guys are co-owners. They are co-owners of a business, of a channel, and now Kyle's doing a hostile takeover, and Steve is going to be forced to either go to court to handle it and get his channel back or destroy the channel. A lot of people don't understand what Steve is doing. Steve knows that once people see what Kyle's doing, they're not going to stay and watch the non-sec, because the non-sec, that thing that has all these people watching, it's pretty obvious that it's from both of them and not just one or the other. I'm not going to ramble. I'm not going to rant. I'm going to play one more clip for you, and then I'm going to get out of here. Godless Engineer, I hope that once you see the Steve Mcrae recorded video of Kyle admitting it was 50-50 through the entirety of building the channel, and that no, Steve did not get to sit down and decide if it was going to go less than 50-50 or enter into a new agreement. And Godless Engineer, I'm really disappointed in the way you've been handling this, but I'm going to assume you just haven't seen the recorded video that proves it was 50-50. And it doesn't matter who does more work or who doesn't once you have that kind of agreement. Those are choices that people make, and they must be able to, you know, both agree that, okay, well, I don't want to work on the channel as much. I'll go ahead and relinquish my 50 when I'm not there. That has to be something that's updated, something else that's done. This is damning. Steve, you could walk into court with this video alone and take everything from him, and you should. Don't say not to. What are you talking about? You guys have, there should be, from what both of you have admitted, like $20, $30, $40, $50,000. I've seen the non-sec. I know what this show is making, okay? Because you can do a basic, like, you know, thing from it. Steve, you need to get your money. Steve hasn't got paid for anything. And now I don't like the way the show's going. Why? Because it's not non-sec. Non-sec wasn't Kyle sitting there. Non-sec was the conversation. Steve and Kyle talking to somebody, or Steve and Kyle moderating two people talking. That was what non-sec was. They had it made. Kyle, you had it made. You could have did this for another few years, took this thing up to the hundreds of thousands of followers. But I'm going to tell you, this is the thing that's going to derail that. I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to derail that. That passionate fan base that watches you guys is now going to be split. And what do you think happens to your, you know, videos in the algorithm and your Patreon and what you do? What do you think happens? Do you think you just magically gain viewers? Do you think you just magically get something out of it? This is not going to work, man. I hope you reconsider. That's what I'll say. I'm not even going to edit this. I apologize to anyone watching. I'm working on 2 other projects that I've been having to keep updating for a while. I'm working my butt off to get those out. This is going to go out. We're going to do a live show on this later. Then I'll do a sum up of this soon. So let me get. Thanks for watching. I support Steve. I want to interview you, Steve. I hope you get in here to talk to me. I want to watch this with you and like go through it with you, with my audience, because I sent a big portion of my following over to watch non-sec. I've told my following about non-sec. I pull clips from non-sec, you know. Always told people in my nightly show about what was going on the non-sec, and I'm literally shocked at what's going on. A literal, recorded, admitted hostile takeover. Kyle avoided having this conversation with these guys. Probably you should have just went and had that conversation back when they weren't suspecting anything, because then maybe they wouldn't have recorded it. Maybe you could have got away with acting like this without it being recorded, but damn. The video is the death of the Non-Sequitur show on Steve Mcrae's channel. I suggest you unsubscribe like everyone else is doing from non-sec. Subscribe to Steve Mcrae, who's going to take non-sec to his channel and continue it. The idea of non-sec, of course, he's going to have to give it a different name now, but because Kyle is going to keep the non-sec and completely change it into something else, while ironically keeping the Patreon and keeping the channel that he does not deserve to keep. If he wants to change non-sec, he could do what Steve did and make a new channel. And Steve literally tells him that we are going to keep non-sec what it is, because it's the craziest, it's so stupid. This is literally how podcasts die all the time. It's how shows die all the time, and it's how businesses die all the time. Somebody wants to drastically change what's going on after they gain success because they start thinking that it's an ego thing, that people are there watching them, and it's not really about what they're doing. And once it's drastically changed, it's over. Head to Steve's show. Head to Steve's Patreon if you are on the non-sec Patreon, because that's where the real non-sec is. Kyle's admitted in this video, he knows he's being recorded. He admits it's a hostile takeover, and he admits that he's fully changing the non-sec show. So why are you even continuing it? You're supporting something completely new. All right, I'm out.